Did you know that one card defined each duelist's entire personality in Duelist Kingdom? The most iconic Yu-Gi-Oh tournament wasn't just about winning duels, it was about showcasing your signature monster that represented who you were as a character. From ancient magicians to mechanical dragons to terrifying ritual beasts. These boss monsters weren't just the strongest cards in someone's deck. They were an extension of the duelists themselves. In this video, we're breaking down every single iconic boss monster from Duelist Kingdom and explaining why they mattered so much to the story and their owners. When we talk about boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of people immediately think of cards with massive attack points or monsters that take multiple tributes to summon. But here's the thing, Duelist Kingdom showed us that a true boss monster goes way beyond just the stats printed on the card. So what actually makes a boss monster? First, it's usually the most frequently used or most powerful monster in a duelist's arsenal. Think about how often Yugi reaches for Dark Magician in tough situations. Second, there's that iconic association. When you see the card, you instantly connect to its owner. Third, it serves as a game finisher or strategy centerpiece. And finally, and this is super important, it represents the duelist's personality and values. Let's look at Mai Valentine as the perfect example of this. Her Harpy Lady is only a 4-star monster with 1,300 attack points. Nothing special on paper, but it completely defines her dueling style. The elegant yet fierce bird women mirror Mai's own confident, independent personality. She builds her entire strategy around them, using cards like Elegant Egotist to multiply her harpies and dominate the field. The beauty of Duelist Kingdom's boss monsters is that they're extensions of the characters themselves. When you see Blue Eyes, you think Kaiba. Red Eyes, that screams Joey Wheeler. And I'm excited to get into the list we have today. Speaking of iconic monsters, nothing represents the heart and soul of Yu-Gi-Oh quite like Yugi's Dark Magician. When you see that purple-robed spellcaster, you immediately think of the King of Games himself. But here's where it gets fascinating. This signature card wasn't even the strongest monster in Yugi's arsenal. Summon Skull packed the same 2,500 attack points, yet it never gained the same legendary status. So what made Dark Magician special? Well, it's all about that deeper connection. In episode 12, Yugi literally calls it his favorite card, showcasing a personal bond that transcended mere statistics. This wasn't just another monster, it was an extension of Yugi's connection to the ancient Pharaoh's spirit inside the Millennium Puzzle. Now, the strategic application of Dark Magician throughout Duelist Kingdom reveals its true value. Yugi brilliantly combined it with magical hats, creating a defensive strategy that protected his life points while setting up a counterattack. Even more impressive was how crucial this spellcaster proved against Pegasus, despite the mind-reading abilities that should have rendered his strategies useless. This pattern of versatility continued throughout the tournament, with Dark Magician becoming the centerpiece of Yugi's most ingenious plays. It wasn't just a powerful attacker, it was the foundation of his entire dueling philosophy. Now let's switch from Yugi's strategic spellcaster to a monster that's all about raw, overwhelming power. If Dark Magician represents careful planning, then the Blue Eyes White Dragon is Kaiba's way of saying, bro, I don't need a strategy when I can just crush you. This legendary dragon packs a massive 3,000 attack points that can obliterate most opposing monsters in a single blast. But Kaiba's connection to the Blue Eyes goes way beyond just appreciating its stats. Now, we won't find out until later in the story just how much of a connection Kaiba has to this card, but we can see from the very beginning that Kaiba considers the Blue Eyes an extension of himself. The dragon isn't just a card in his deck, it is literally part of his identity. And this obsession reaches disturbing levels throughout the series, as we see Blue Eyes statues in everything Kaiba Corp, including his own transportation. That's not normal competitive behavior, that's someone whose entire self-worth is tied to this one monster. Now, like I mentioned, the flashbacks we do see hint at a deeper emotional connection that's never fully explained during Duelist Kingdom. But one thing is crystal clear. As the research puts it, no Blue Eyes, no Kaiba. This dragon represents everything about him, his relentless ambition, his overwhelming approach to obstacles, and his absolute refusal to accept second place. Now, while Kaiba might have had his dragons, the creator of Duel Monsters himself had something infinitely more devious. Pegasus didn't just design a powerful card, he invented one that completely broke the fundamental rules of the game. Relinquished isn't your typical boss monster that just attacks with high points. It literally takes your own monsters and uses them against you. When Pegasus summoned this ritual monster against Yugi, it changed the entire dynamic of their duel. Think about it, a monster with 0 attack and defense points that could absorb any monster on the field, gain its attack points, and then use your own beast as a shield? It's essentially telling your opponent, your strongest monster? Well, that's mine now, and if you attack, you're only hurting yourself. However, what made Relinquished truly terrifying wasn't just its ability. It was how perfectly it complemented Pegasus himself. Just like how he manipulated people in situations, Relinquished manipulated the field. Just like how he could read minds with his Millennium Eye, Relinquished could read and absorb whatever monster threatened it. But even the most broken monster has its weaknesses. When Yugi faced this seemingly unbeatable threat, he found a creative solution. By using Karibo strategically with his Magician of Black Chaos, Yugi managed to blind Relinquished and negate its absorption effects. It wasn't raw power that defeated Pegasus' creation, it was clever tactics, and of course, yes, the heart of the cards. Unlike the other main characters who begin their journey with their signature cards already in hand, Joey Wheeler had to earn his boss monster the hard way. What truly makes the Red Eyes Black Dragon special is that Joey won it in battle, defeating Rex Raptor in what would become a pivotal duel that transformed him from Yugi's inexperienced sidekick into a legitimate competitor. This victory against Rex wasn't just about adding a powerful card to his deck, it was symbolic of everything Joey stood for. Where Kaiba's Blue Eyes represented absolute power and dominance, Joey's Red Eyes embodied something entirely different, untapped potential. With its gleaming crimson eyes peering through darkness, this dragon perfectly captured Joey's own journey from street punk to serious duelist. And what's fascinating is how Joey's emotional connection to the Red Eyes went far beyond strategic advantage. Throughout Duelist Kingdom, he consistently relied on this card, even when other monsters in his arsenal, particularly Time Wizard, technically won him more duels. That's because Red Eyes wasn't just another card to Joey, it was an extension of his identity and his belief in the heart of the cards. Joey's relationship with his dragon created a stark contrast to Kaiba's approach to dueling. While Kaiba pursued raw strength and technical perfection, Joey built his strategy around loyalty, heart, and the potential for growth. This emotional investment transformed Red Eyes from a trophy into the physical manifestation of Joey's own development. While Joey's emotional journey with Red Eyes captured hearts, Mai Valentine showed us the power of strategic thinking in action. What happens when a professional duelist transforms a basic monster into their entire dueling identity? Mai's Harpy Lady strategy proves that with the right supporting cards and tactical mindset, even a 1300 attack monster can dominate the field. Now, Mai's genius lay in her support card ecosystem that turned her harpies from basic bird women into field-controlling powerhouses. In her duel against Taya, we saw her equip Rose Whip and Cyber Shield to dramatically boost their attack power. But her true strategic depth appeared when using Elegant Egotist to swarm the field with multiple harpies at once, creating overwhelming pressure that few duelists could handle. And remember when she faced Yugi in episode 29? Her first move was summoning a single Harpy Lady, but she immediately backed it with Mirror Wall to negate Yugi's Guy the Fierce Knight's attack. This showcased her defensive planning alongside offensive capability. The Harpies weren't just cards to Mai, they were an extension of her battle psychology. Even in episode 3, Mai's famous aroma tactics, well, they complemented her Harpy strategy perfectly. By correctly guessing cards under her deck through scent, she created a psychological advantage that mirrored the fierce independence of her winged warriors. These weren't just monsters, they were the embodiment of Mai's confident, calculating approach to both dueling and life. From Mai's strategic approach, we shift to the complete opposite, the brash American duelist who embodied the might makes right philosophy. Bandit Keith's Barrel Dragon wasn't just a powerful machine, it was the perfect extension of his personality, right down to its mechanics. When Keith summoned Barrel Dragon against Joey Wheeler, he wasn't just playing a card with an impressive 2,600 attack points. He was unleashing a mechanical monster that perfectly captured his gambling spirit. The three massive gun barrels protruding from this chrome-plated beast weren't just for show. Each represented a potential instant destruction effect triggered by coin flips. And what makes Barrel Dragon so fascinating is how its design directly mirrors Keith's American gunslinger persona. The mechanical dragon with its three-barrel design screams American firepower. And this matches Keith's loud, aggressive dueling style. Every time Keith activated Barrel Dragon's effect, it was like watching a high-stakes game of Russian roulette play out on the field, potentially wiping out 3 of Joey's monsters in a single turn if luck was on his side. But here's the irony. While Barrel Dragon relied on chance, Keith himself was notorious for leaving nothing to chance, hiding cards in his wristbands and rigging outcomes whenever possible. This contradiction reveals something important about Keith's character. He preached luck and gambling while secretly stacking the deck in his favour. While Keith relied on luck manipulation, Weevil Underwood took an entirely different approach with a strategy that required impressive patience. Imagine building your entire dueling identity around a monster that needs multiple turns just to reach its final form. Well, that's exactly what Weevil did with his infamous Moth evolution strategy. The process started with the tiny Lava Moth, a seemingly insignificant card that was just the first stage in Weevil's master plan. This would evolve into the protective Cocoon of Evolution, a crucial defensive stage where the monster needed time to transform. After surviving in its cocoon form, the creature would emerge as the Great Moth. Now, what made this strategy so unique in Duelist Kingdom was that it represented one of the first true evolution mechanics in the game. Weevil wasn't about instant gratification. He played the long game, patiently nurturing his insect through multiple stages while protecting it at all costs. But as Yugi demonstrated in their duel, this strategy had a glaring weakness. By targeting the vulnerable Cocoon of Evolution before it could fully evolve, Yugi tried to prevent the final form from ever emerging. Failing this, Yugi had to rely on the power of his summoned skull combined with the magic card Mako the Magical Mist to take down the Great Moth and win him the duel. This moment perfectly illustrated that even the most powerful boss monsters could be defeated by exploiting their weaknesses. While Weevil's evolution strategy had clear weaknesses, Rex Raptor faced a far worse problem: the complete loss of his signature monster. Imagine building your entire duelist identity around a powerful dragon, only to watch Joey Wheeler walk away with it after one bad wager. This wasn't just a card changing hands, it was Rex's status and confidence disappearing in a single duel. The numbers tell the story perfectly. Red Eye's Black Dragon boasted an impressive 2,400 attack points, making it a genuine threat in Duelist Kingdom's early game. After losing it, Rex had to settle for Serpent Knight Dragon with its 2,350 attack. Statistically similar, but lacking the synergy and support cards that made Red Eyes so devastating. Even worse, his next best option was Two-Headed King Rex with just 1,600 attack points, a dramatic downgrade from his former ace. So what makes Rex's situation so fascinating is how it affected him psychologically. Once a national championship finalist with legitimate credentials, he became noticeably less confident and more desperate in his duels. Without Red Eyes and the Dragon Nails equip card that could boost it to a massive 3,000 attack, Rex's entire strategy fell apart, and his reliance on Two-Headed King Rex wasn't by choice. It became his signature monster by default, a constant reminder of how far he'd fallen. Rex's situation perfectly illustrates that a boss monster isn't just a powerful card, it's the foundation of a duelist's identity and confidence. From a duelist who lost everything to one who commanded the very environment itself, Mako Tsunami's approach to dueling was truly unique in Duelist Kingdom. Unlike other competitors who simply played powerful monsters on a standard field, Mako transformed the entire battlefield into his personal hunting ground using the tournament's unique field power bonus. Now, what made Kairyu-Shin truly special wasn't raw attack power. It was how this sea serpent operated within Mako's carefully crafted ocean ecosystem. With the ocean flooding the field, Kairyu-Shin gained a deadly advantage that perfectly mirrored Mako's fishing philosophy: patience, timing, and striking at the perfect moment. The brilliance of Mako's strategy was how his signature monster could literally hide beneath the waves created by the field power bonus, becoming invisible until the moment he chose to attack. This wasn't just a gameplay mechanic, it was a reflection of Mako's deep understanding of the ocean's unpredictable nature and his respect for its power. Now, visually, Kairyu-Shin's design draws from Japanese sea mythology, specifically the Leviathan, the king of the ocean. This massive sea dragon could unleash devastating tidal waves against land-based monsters, mirroring the real-world danger that Mako understood all too well as a fisherman who lost his father to the sea's fury. If the ocean depths concealed Mako's sea monster, then the next challenge for Yugi and Joey elevated the concept of boss monster to entirely new heights. Now, the Paradox brothers didn't just coordinate their moves, they literally fused their strategies into the most complex boss monster of Duelist Kingdom. Gate Guardian wasn't a single creature, but a towering fusion of three elemental beings. We have Suijin, Kazijin, and Sanga of the Thunder. Assembling this colossus required having all three component monsters on the field simultaneously. A high-risk, high-reward strategy that perfectly mirrored the brothers' synchronized dueling approach. Once assembled, this elemental titan boasted a staggering 3,750 attack points and 3,400 defense points, making it one of the most powerful monsters in the early series. But its true strength lay in its defensive capabilities. Each component monster contributed unique protection abilities, allowing Gate Guardian to negate attacks and control the flow of battle. What made this confrontation truly special was how Yugi and Joey had to mirror the brothers' teamwork to overcome this seemingly unbeatable opponent. Their victory demonstrated that strategic thinking and cooperation could triumph over raw power, revealing a critical weakness in the brothers' reliance on a single powerful monster. While Yugi conquered the Gate Guardian through teamwork with Joey, his next opponent proved that sometimes intimidation itself could be weaponized. PaniK's dueling style wasn't about overwhelming attack points, it was about creating fear through the unknown. At the center of his strategy was the Castle of Dark Illusions, a floating fortress with just 920 attack points that transformed the entire battlefield. This wasn't a monster you'd fear for its offensive capabilities, you feared what you couldn't see hiding beneath it. The castle created a field-wide darkness that concealed all of PaniK's monsters while leaving Yugi's completely exposed. Now, this asymmetry of information was PaniK's true strength. His opponents would hesitate, second-guess themselves, and fall victim to their own anxiety about what might be lurking in the shadows. Why attack directly when you can make your opponent defeat themselves with doubt? Now, what makes the castle remarkable is how perfectly it matches PaniK's entire persona. His name, his intimidating physical presence, and his psychological tactics all revolved around using fear as a weapon. The castle wasn't just a card, it was the manifestation of his entire dueling philosophy. Now, Yugi's breakthrough came when Swords of Revealing Light, which exposed PaniK's hidden monsters for 3 turns, literally brought his strategy out of the shadows. When the darkness lifted, the castle's power crumbled, proving that even the most oppressive psychological warfare has its vulnerabilities. After seeing PaniK's shadowy strategy fall apart, let's dive into something even more sinister from Bones' graveyard. Unlike most boss monsters that attack directly, Pumpkin, the King of Ghosts, never needed to land a single blow to dominate the field. This pumpkin-headed spectre wasn't intimidating with its mediocre attack points, but it had something far more valuable: the ability to control an entire undead army from behind the scenes. Every standby phase, Pumpkin King of Ghosts would increase its power by 100 points, while simultaneously strengthening all of Bones' zombies on the field. But the real horror show began when the Pumpkin King of Ghosts effect interacted with the Call of the Haunted trap card. This combo allowed Bones to continuously revive monsters from his graveyard, creating an ever-growing zombie horde that became stronger with each passing turn. Now, the visual design of the Pumpkin King of Ghosts with its Halloween-inspired aesthetic and ghostly aura, well, they perfectly matched the horror theme of Bones' deck. Those spooky elements made it one of Duelist Kingdom's most visually memorable cards, even if its strategic effectiveness was sometimes limited. And what's fascinating is how the Pumpkin King of Ghosts mirrored Bones himself, a puppet master controlling others while being controlled by Bandit Keith behind the scenes. Just as Keith manipulated Bones, Pumpkin King of Ghosts pulled the strings of an undead army that grew more powerful the longer the duel continued. Speaking of manipulation, nobody in Duelist Kingdom embodied control quite like Bakura. But his most powerful card wasn't even a monster. It was a spell card called Change of Heart that perfectly mirrored the internal struggle of Bakura himself. This wasn't just any card. In the anime, Bakura's face was literally visible within the artwork, creating a direct visual link between the duelist and his signature spell. Now, what made Change of Heart so fascinating was how it functioned as a narrative boss monster without actually being a monster at all. The card's effect, temporarily taking control of an opponent's monster, was the perfect reflection of how the evil spirit of the Millennium Ring would seize control of Bakura's body. During his duel with Yugi, the card's strategic power became clear when Bakura attempted to use it to control Yugi's Dark Magician, a move that would have completely shifted the duel's momentum. Now, while Change of Heart defined Bakura's split personality, his actual monster boss was probably something like the sinister man-eater bug. This flip effect creature could destroy any monster on the field, representing the destructive nature of the evil spirit. In one particularly dark moment, the spirit even used Man-Eater Bug to attack Pegasus' guards, bringing the card's deadly power into the real world. While some duelists relied on raw destructive power, Taya Gardner's signature card reflected something much deeper about her character. In her duel against Mai Valentine, Taya showcased a monster that perfectly embodied who she was as a person, the Magician of Faith. So what makes this card so special? With just 300 attack points, it seems laughably weak compared to the behemoths like BlueEyed or Gate Guardian. But Taya's boss monster wasn't about brute force, it was about restoration and support. When flipped face up, Magician of Faith allowed her to recover a spell card from the graveyard, creating second chances where none seemed possible. This ability wasn't just strategically useful, it was symbolically perfect. Throughout Duelist Kingdom, Taya was the emotional backbone of the group, constantly reminding everyone about their friendship and supporting them when they faltered. Her boss monster did exactly the same thing on the field, bringing back resources when they were most needed. Even the card's visual design tells a story. It's a female spellcaster holding a crescent staff, representing faith and belief in something greater than oneself. During her duel with Mai, this recovery ability proved crucial, allowing Taya to extend the match and implement her strategy despite facing a more experienced opponent. Looking at Duelist Kingdom's boss monsters as a complete collection reveals surprising patterns about the characters and the show itself. When we rank these signature cards, there's a clear winner for most overpowered. Pegasus' Relinquished simply broke the game by absorbing monsters and using them as shields. No other card came close to that level of rule-bending power. On the flip side, Rex Raptor's Serpent Knight Dragon probably wins the unfortunate title of most useless boss monster. Despite its cool appearance and very decent 2,350 attack points, it lacked any special abilities to make it truly threatening. The boss monsters even mirrored their duelist personality perfectly. Heroes like Yugi and Joey wielded monsters representing growth and potential, while villains like Kaiba and Pegasus used cards embodying dominance and control. Bandit Keith's coin-flipping Barrel Dragon perfectly captured his gambling and cheating nature, while Mai's Harpy Ladies embodied her confidence and tactical mind games. What's fascinating is how these early boss monsters shaped their franchise's future. The truly iconic ones, Dark Magician and Blue Blue Eyes White Dragon, well, they remained central to the series, constantly receiving new support cards and variations. Others, like Great Moth or Serpent Knight Dragon, faded into obscurity, lacking the narrative significance to remain relevant in later storylines. And that wraps up our tour through Duelist Kingdom's most iconic boss monsters. What makes this tournament so special is how these cards revealed the soul of each duelist. The boss monsters of Duelist Kingdom weren't just powerful, they were extensions of the duelists themselves, reflecting their personalities, growth, and strategic styles. This connection between duelist and card became a fundamental element that defined the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise moving forward. These iconic pairings established a blueprint that would influence every tournament arc that followed. So, which Duelist Kingdom boss monster was your favourite? And who had the best deck in Duelist Kingdom? Check out this video here where I rank every single duelist deck and find out who had the best. Go check it out, I think you'll love that one. I'll see you over there. Till then, take care. Peace, peace!